Hi all, it's Barb coming to you from my craft studio. I'm going to talk about Get Organized, the unofficial summer Get Organized challenge. We're on week 2 paper. I'll be right back. Okay, let me flip to the paper section. I need to put up my next homework reminder too. With paper, we use 3 of the 4 sections. We use themes A to Z, my brain, the calendar year, and the rainbow. Alphabets and numbers aren't normally used because normally if your paper has that, it fits into some other theme that would take precedence over the alphabet and numbers. So Tiffany recommends keeping all of your paper together regardless of size. Now I do keep my 6x6 separate because I just don't like how unless I only have, I do have some 6x6 mixed in. I keep my, like my Stamps of Life 6x6 separate, but I don't like how it fits in my section, and that's the main reason I do it. But I do keep the others. Now I do put my 8.5 11 first, and then I do my 12 by 12. Mine kind of goes the 8.5 by 11, the 12 by, then I go 12 by 12. First, I kind of do what I can call my lower quality paper. I mean, it's still nice paper. I don't really use paper weight. I use cardstock weight. It's a little lower quality cardstock, I guess. Like the Michael's Recollections or the Hobby Lobby Paper Studio or Joann's, what do they call theirs? Park Lane, that type. And they don't usually have their colors named individually. They're just like in a packet of reds or whatever. And then I have what I consider my higher quality paper that I usually try to reserve for my 3D crafting because the heavier weight is kind of needed for those, like my Dreaming Tree projects. I usually try to reserve that for that. That's mainly Basil. I do have some Stampin' Up and some close to my heart that I found at garage sales. And I have those by color name. I have a really hard time doing light to dark because I'm like, is this one lighter or is this one? So I just said, forget it. I'm going by color name. So my named colors come next. And then my pattern papers, because Tiffany recommends you keep your patterns right in with your with your colors. And those, I didn't write that down. This is how I have mine subdivided, my because I do kind of subdivide my patterns down. I do my double-sided first because usually I kind of reserve, I don't have a lot of double-sided, I kind of reserve what I have for projects where you need double-sided paper. You're going to see both sides of the paper, like in a 3D project. You're going to see both sides of the paper. So I like to use that for those projects. And then I have dots, florals, plaids, stripes, kind of wood look, and then I just have a category I call the rest. Now Tiffany says there's no miscellaneous in crafting, which I agree with her. And a few people said, well, isn't the rest kind of miscellaneous? I said, not really, because it's all the same color. It's just different patterns that I don't have enough of to break down further. You know. And then after my patterns, I have my specialty paper, because I keep it special, because I'm probably not going to pull a piece of glitter cardstock out when I need cards, just regular cardstock. So I keep my specialty papers separate, and I divide them by the type of paper they are. So I have my foil, my glitter, what I call mulberry paper. They used to call it that. I'm not sure if they still call it that. I put my pearl and my shimmer together because they kind of have the same type of look. My poster board, vellum, and white core, because I usually use white core for very specific projects, like if I'm going to, sometimes I like to use it when I'm embossing because I want the white to show in, but most of the time I don't want that white to show, so I don't want to pull that by mistake for another project. Makes sense? So that's kind of how I separate down my papers. You can do yours however you like. I just thought you might appreciate kind of a breakdown of how somebody who's been through it many times has done theirs. It's basically, she says, keep your prints, your papers, and your multicolored. Now, I do have a section. My rainbow goes like this: pink, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, white, gray, brown, black. And I put a multicolored section at the beginning. It just has so many colors in it, and there's not really a dominant color. I don't have too much of that. I've really worked on either determining what color I would probably use it with the most, or just trying to use it and get it out of my room. I was trying to see what this said. Here it says, what are the exceptions? Your colored and printed papers should go, there. But let's say you bought a piece of pink floral paper, but you bought it specifically for your daughter's ballet scrapbook page. You should file that with ballet, because that's what you bought it for. Now, if after you do that page, you still have that paper, then move it over to your pink floral section or your pink pattern section, however you're doing it. Decide what to do with your kits and scraps and stacks. Tiffany, I know, recommends leaving your paper pads together and just kind of either putting like a tab on the end. One of her, let me see if I can find one real quick. Shut your flat tabs. I also have some index tabs that I've either bought at the store or on Amazon. Either label them with something like this, or what I used to do was I'd take a Sharpie and I'd write on the bound edge, because you didn't, when you took them down piece by piece, you didn't see that. But now here's what I do with mine. I don't recommend this for somebody who has not finished sorting all the paper. I'm going to put that out there. I take mine apart, because here's what I found with mine. If I was looking for paper and I had those, I'd pull those stacks and I'd look at those paper pads there, and I'm like, I don't feel like flipping through those. So they weren't getting used. So I tear them apart and I put them there. I put them in with my rest of my rainbow paper. Some people don't like to do that, and if that makes you nervous, don't do it. But like I said, I wasn't using them. Sometimes an exception will be like if I buy a Christmas pack or a fall pack, I'll just slide it in my season. Usually, eventually, I break that down too. Sometimes I bought it with a specific type of project in mind, so I'll leave it together till after I do that project, and then I'll break it down. But like I said, I don't recommend that for somebody who hasn't finished their paper. That's something to do in a future challenge if you're thinking about it. And if you're not sure, just do 1 or 2 and see how it goes. But I find I use my paper, those paper pads, a lot more now that they're mixed down in there. And there was some that honestly I just said, yeah, I'm not going to use that sheet, and it went into my purge pile. But for the most part, if I divided it up by the color, I used it. Sometimes even the ones you don't like will work well in a project where you're not going to see a whole lot of it. You just have that little bit of the edge of the pattern paper. You know, a little bit of it's not overwhelming, whereas that whole page is like, ugh. But like the kits and stacks, she says, don't pull those apart. Keep together what you use together. A lot of times they come with like an inventory or an ideal sheet. If they fit more than one category, number your kits and then number that kit page, the inventory page or whatever it is. Copy that off and file that in any themes that it will fit. Your homework for this week would be to watch the video first for the first week of the challenge. I will try to remember to add it at the end again, like I did last week. Create your templates or dividers for sorting. Sort at least 8 inches of paper. That's important. All you have to sort to finish this week's homework is 8 inches of paper. You do not have to sort all of your paper. 8 inches. If you can do more, that's great. But once you hit 8 inches, that piece of homework is complete. This is where I see the most burnout among people, is they try to do it all in one challenge. You're not going to get it done in one challenge. I'd be surprised if most crafters could organize all their stuff in an 8-week challenge. Maybe if that's all you had to do was just organize your stuff, but most people have jobs and family and, you know, housework and cooking and cleaning, so you're not going to be able to get all of that done. And sometimes life throws you a curveball and hey, you got to roll with it. But all you need is 8 inches to complete that step. Sort your scraps. Throw away any scrap that doesn't meet your minimum requirement. Tiffany used to recommend a 12 by 6 as her minimum. I think she might have went a little bit smaller, and she's does realize that a lot of people with card makers, they might use smaller than that. I think my smallest, I'm trying to think, is it 4 by 6? I think that's kind of I will keep smaller in special paper, but 4 by 6 is kind of the smallest I'll keep in my scrap area. Now I have taken to, with my scraps, cutting them down to sizes that I use a lot. Like I'll cut it, if I've got enough for a card base, I'll cut it down to a card base and I'll file those with my card base. I'll pre-cut photo or card mats, the sizes that I use, and some of my We Are Memory Keepers punch boards take set sizes. So I have buddy bags for the sizes that my emoji punch board uses, the 2 different alphabet punch boards, and it seems like there's at least one more, and I can't think of what it is off the top of my head. I have buddy bags that hold that size scrap paper, and I'll cut some down when I'm going through my scraps. And I kind of have a rule. I keep my scraps. For the name colors, I keep them right in the folder. I bought these sleeves on Amazon. So this is my Basil Pineapple Bliss. I keep, as you can see, the scraps are right in the front of that. So I keep the scraps right in the front of that one. But like my unnamed papers, or sometimes if I get down to where all I have left is scraps, I'll move them into this. And these ones are kind of my bigger, odd size scraps. And then I have, this one's labeled 6 by 6, but I see there's a couple pieces that are not 6 by 6 in there. And then this is 4x6. I put or less because I do keep a few. Because sometimes I only need to cut out like one little thing out of a color. So it's nice to have the small scrap. And then I have my 1 6x12. So I kind of have that. And then I had a little pocket for 8x8 paper, but because I don't have a lot of it, I only have just like a handful. So some colors don't have any. And then I kind of had an A4, but I am moving that to the beginning of my thing. So this is the Totally Tiffany Scrap Master. I have one of these for each color, and I also use them in my specialty papers because that one I'll keep smaller scraps. So sort your scraps, get rid of any that don't meet your minimum, and figure out how you're going to store them. I highly recommend one of two things, either with the rest of your paper, which is how I do it, or I should say, some people I know like to have a little box, but I would still sort them by color families at least, that they keep by their like die cutting machine, so they can grab just a little piece to die cut, whatever. I'd recommend one or the other of those, or a combination, because maybe you don't want to have all your scraps, you know, at your table. But I also do think that if you use certain size scraps a lot, it's not a bad idea to cut them down to that. So then when you want to, like if I want to use my one of my We Are Memory Keepers punch boards, I have plenty of paper already cut to that size. Then put all of your newly organized paper into your new organized only space. This is why I said last week that space is going to grow as you continue. So one other thing I might tack on here is maybe next week is photos. Maybe try to clear out a spot to put your newly organized photos next week. But that's not in the official homework, but I think it might just be a nice little thing to add. Share your progress either in one of the groups or with whoever you went public with, and celebrate with your second reward. Thanks for joining me. I'll catch you next time.